just to see them achieve those things is the best part, the absolute best part of it.
On this week's episode, we have Brittany Anderson, the assistant coach to the Stanford women's basketball team, national champion. I'm pretty sure you're our first national champion up here. So round of applause for you. Congratulations.
Honor.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Oh, yes. So before you got, to your national championship level, you not only played for Virginia Tech, but you were their assistant coach. How did you go from being like in the system of being the player to that transition to a coach?
There's a lot of steps, a lot of things that happened along the way, I think, that prepared me to get there that I didn't really think were preparing me, but they did. So I played at Virginia Tech 2003 to 2007, and I graduated. And one of my position coaches, Bobby Kelsey, asked me, had I thought about being in coaching? And I was like, absolutely not. She's like, I think you'd be a good college coach. I'm like, nah, like, that sounds good, but no, I didn't want to do it. So I worked a regular 9 to 5 for about 6 years. And in doing that, that helped me grow up. It helped me see that there's a different world or another world out there besides just basketball. But it helped me see all the amenities and things that I received as a student athlete at Virginia Tech. That's not how the real world works. So it kind of helped me grow up. And then I got into coaching after working a regular 9 to 5 for 6 years and then coaching AAU in the summer for 6 years. And it prepared me kind of for what was next, wanting more out of life and finding my purpose and things of that sort. So there's a lot of growing up in between player to coach. But I look back on a lot of that now, and it just was building block, stepping stone, help prepare me for the next part of the journey. But I had a lot of growing up to do. And if I tell Bobby all the time, if I got into coaching right out of college, I would have been fired. And they'd be like, don't hire her. Because I was immature and still trying to figure it all out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see how people, they go from graduating to just becoming like graduate coaches. And I'm like, how could you do that? Like, how do you turn your brain so fast from going to playing, and like you go from you were their teammate 5 minutes ago and now you're like an authority figure in the way. Did you struggle to try to like fill that? Like, did you want to be the friendly coach, or did you want to be the like, I'm on you kind of coach?
I think you can't coach everybody the same. And I played for coaches that were like that. So that kind of was instilled in me through just being coached like that. There's a very fine line. A lot of my former players ask me, like, it's a very like fine line of being friendly enough to let them know you're there for them and joke with them, but then being able to let them know, hey, we got something we got to do. This is what we got to accomplish. So I think for me, it's just, I grew up the oldest of 3. So it kind of was one of those things where you're kind of forced into a leadership role growing up as a kid, and you have a younger brother and sister, and they kind of look to you. And you're setting the example. So I think it's just something that was instilled in me. But I think the leadership qualities I have, are from that, how I grew up being the oldest, but also from my role on a team of being like, look, y'all, okay, we don't feel like it today, but let's make it as easy as possible for us. And let's get through this the best way possible. So trying to encourage them. And I'm just an encourager. So it's a very fine line. But a lot of my former players have asked me, they still ask me, somebody asked me yesterday, and it's hard to explain sometimes, but it's kind of, you just have to have a feel for the players who you're coaching.
I feel like that's where, not saying like coaches are trying their best and stuff like that, but in my experience, I feel like that's where some of the coaches kind of went wrong, is like they tried to generalize everyone on their team. Because like I may respond to something that Susie may not respond to, but you're trying to use the same tactics on everyone. And that's where I feel like a lot of coaches get lost in the mix, and where they feel like they're, that's where the animosity becomes on the team and like stuff like that. But it's not really that. It's that you haven't built that rapport with your team. And I feel like that's not even necessarily for like a team-based basketball. If we were talking in that situation, that's just life in general in a way. Like there's friends you can like, you can really chop it up with some of your friends, but other friends you're like, okay, we can't do that. And that's fine. Like you can't crack jokes with them, but it's okay. It's fine. We'll get there.
Yeah, spot on. You're spot on with that. I agree with you 1,000%.
How did you get into playing basketball?
It's just something growing up, my parents were, both my parents played in college. My dad played at GW, my mom played basketball at Howard. And it was one of those things where growing up, sports, my parents believe sports teaches you something about yourself, but it also helps you make friends. It also helps build a work ethic and discipline and things. So growing up, we had to play something. So it was every season you had to play something, you're playing something. And they didn't care what you picked, but you had to do something. And to be honest with you, I played basketball, but I was terrible. I wasn't very good. It was awful. But I think it was just, trying to figure it out. I wasn't one of those kids that in the beginning, like, oh my gosh, she's so good. She's this, she's that. It was like, she might want to think about playing something else. And so I played just because it was like during this basketball season time, like, what else am I going to play? So I played. And it just grew on me after getting cut and all that and being told I wouldn't play Division I basketball. And growing up, I grew up in Texas. So in Texas, girls basketball is huge. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me happy to see how much girls basketball has grown just in general. But in Texas, it's really big. It's football on Friday nights and girls basketball. And so it was one of those things where I got cut, told I wasn't very good. I probably should think about doing something else. And then once I found that out, kind of pushed me to want to become better, prove this person wrong. And the sport just honestly grew on me. And there's nothing that I could say besides like, I genuinely love, I can sit and watch it all day. Love being a part of it. I know we just finished workouts here yesterday, but I know it's going to be something where I'm like, gosh, I miss it, or I miss the team, or I miss being around it. But it just grew on me on time, just trying to prove somebody wrong. And then I'm like, well, here I am.
Oh yeah. I tried basketball for like 6 years. Everyone got taller. I didn't. So I was like, let's go play some volleyball, you guys. Let's go play some volleyball. Because the only thing I was good at was playing like defense down low. But like you don't want a 5'4" girl playing down low. Like that's not how basketball works.
That's not what you want.
that's not how basketball. I was like, okay, I'll go because I could dribbling the concept, never got it. Never understood it, never got it. The amount of coaches who was like, Ashleigh, you can do it. I'm like, sometimes you just gotta let it go and try something out. When you got the call from Tara Van Deer, like what in the world? Like, how did you decide? How did it go? How did you feel?
I think one thing with being in this profession, I think a lot of people, there's a lot of networking, a lot of people reaching out, a lot of people you meet along the way, you kind of just, and I'm a friendly person, so I can pretty much talk to anybody. And just talking to her the first time, I'll be honest with you, I talked to her and I was like, I don't know where it will go, but I enjoy talking to her. She's very personable, good person to talk to. She's about empowering women. And I've seen that firsthand this year. But her biggest thing is like, she loves basketball. She loves basketball. She loves being around our team. And it shows, but in just talking to her, I kind of felt that. So I talked to her the first time and I just kind of was just like, all right, I just talked to a legend. She is one of the originals. She is somebody that a lot of people want to play for. You hear players all the time say, I want to play at Stanford, I want to play for Tara. And I just kind of took it and kept rolling with it because I didn't think much would come from it. You just kind of, it's just, you're in a profession where you talk to a lot of people. So I just didn't, I was honored to talk to her just because of, her legacy and everything she's done. And Bobby Kelsey, who's my mentor, played for her, coached for her, and she spoke very highly of her. So I was like, it just was a conversation where I was like, okay, well, we'll see where it goes. But it was a good conversation, and it was a good first conversation, I should say. And she's just a good person to talk to.
People like Tara Van Deer or Gina Ariema, or even like I go to UNC and like Roy Williams, like I feel like they're like the kind of people who translate the same way from the TV to like real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes people, not saying that people are fake or anything, but they like aren't as personable in real life as they may seem on TV. And I feel like those people kind of are. And when you like say you like went across the country, like I feel like most people, they would have like thought 2 times twice. But I feel like to be like a coach or an athlete, you gotta have like that little bit of like the part of your mind, like the sensible part. It's just like over time it like fades away as you're like a coach or an athlete. Did you ever feel like maybe we didn't make the right decision, or you just like you went 10 toes deep? You're like, we're going in, whatever happens, happens.
It was it was whatever happens, happens. I was like, I'm just going to jump in the deep end of the pool and go. I just knew one thing. I said, I'm going to take this job, but I'm not getting on a plane. Like, that was just my thing. I was like, I'm not getting on a plane. When the NBA shut down, when the world shut down, when they said all this stuff was happening, I was literally in Florida recruiting. And I was like, am I about to get stuck here? Am I about to have to drive home? And just being in the airport at that time, I was like, I cannot fly. Like, I'm not flying. So I drove across the country, me, my mom, and my dog. We did it over about five days. We did it. We planned out our stops, and we just kind of we rolled with it. The only time I was like, what in the world, was when I got here, kind of got settled, packed everything. I'm not an outdoorsy person, and I was forced to be one here. So hiking and different things like that, you had to do to get out the house and get some fresh air, because here, stay at home order meant like stuff was shut down. Like, and it wasn't like on the East Coast, I was like, oh, okay. Not to say East Coast didn't take it as serious as the West Coast, but California is one of the first states to be like, okay, we're shutting down. Like, everything comes to a screeching halt. So when I got here, I was just like, there's nothing. Like, there was nothing but to like go hiking and things of that sort. So it forced me to do those things, but you just realize the differences when you're in different parts of the country when it comes to certain things. That was the only time where I was like, what in the world? Because it was eye-opening. But past that, I just kind of was like, we're just gonna roll with it.
She woke up and she was like, wait, this wasn't a fever dream. We really just did it, Toto. I don't know what the name of your dog is, so I just went with the Fifi. We really just did it. We just went on a limb. But you mentioned recruiting, and that for coaching, that's just something that I've always been interested in. Again, don't want to be a coach because but I think recruiting's so interesting. Like how do you do it, or how did you do it before? Like what were things you looked for? How does it work?
I'm a relationship person, and nobody can speak more about a player's character than their coach or their teacher or the people they're around. So being high character, I think, I know is what can help a athlete be successful on and off the court. Are you going to do the right thing the right way? So you talk a lot to AAU coaches, you talk a lot to high school coaches. You try to get to know the people in player circles to see kind of like what kind of player they are, what kind of person they are. But I think the aspect that a lot of people don't focus on a lot in the recruiting process, I think coaches do, is who are you off the court, social media? What are you liking? What are you reposting? What are you sharing on your social media? And that, I think that says a lot about a person. But also, you're going to spend, like, we as coaches spend a lot of time with players on the court, but you spend more time with them off the court, traveling, going to restaurants to eat, going on different trips. You spend a lot of time with them on the bus and the airport, stuff like that. So I'm off of, and I say off of like, they're an athlete. A lot of them can play. They're Division I athletes, but character-wise, how do they fit into what you are trying to achieve as a program, and how will they fit in with your current team? Because the culture of your team is very important, and you don't want to allow stuff off the court to affect on the court, and they spend more time with each other off the court than they do on. So I say character, but there's a lot of ways to go about it. Everybody has their own philosophy of how they do it. But I'm a relationship type person. So talking to a player, getting to know them, what are their goals, helping them see that they can achieve their goals. But also, I'm very big on, if I'm going to recruit a player and they can come here or wherever I am and play, I want to continue to have that relationship once they move on. So if you ever call me and you need help with something, or you need me to do something for you, or you need a recommendation letter, just to be there for them, or even just life. And a lot of players that I recruit, I just tell them, like, yeah, you're going to college for 4 years, but if you need something, call me. I can help you any way possible. But I think relationship-based recruiting is how I go about it.
Oh yeah, you brought up so many good things. Like somebody should put that like in their title slides for like how to recruit players. Just throw that whole slide up there. We can send it to you for a certain amount of dollars. And But you brought up something that was really interesting, like how the player will fit with the regular team. Because I feel like a lot of fans, they just be like, oh, like we want the number one player no matter what, no matter if we have like 19 bigs on our teams, what's one more? Like we can do another player. What would you say to like get people to understand like the team needs to work in a way a team needs to work? You know what I mean?
The biggest thing I will say is, yes, everybody can score, but how well do you do the other things? How well do you move without the ball in your hands? How good of a passer are you? If you can play multiple positions, can you play multiple positions effectively? When kind of like, what do you need to score? As far as, do you need space? Like, how many dribbles do you need? And let's just be honest, we're playing with a shot clock. A lot of high schools don't. That's another aspect of college basketball that I think people don't think about. So you play with a shot clock, and then how's their basketball IQ? Like, can you play with other good players and be successful and fit into what's going on and how things are being achieved in the program for it to be a successful program. But I think the biggest thing is that you have to be able to come in and help a program. And when I say help a program, like, can you be successful and the program be successful? Because once you're done playing, the program still goes on. The program still is functioning, still going on. So how successful can you be coming in and being a part of the program, but also get along with the other players that you're playing with?
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, you gotta kind of like how you have to sell, like y'all kind of have to like, you know, promote Stanford in a way like what you're doing now. But I feel like some players forget that y'all have a business to run. Like Stanford's gonna go on if you come here or if you don't come here. And fans kind of don't understand that either. Like you gotta make way for it. And if people choose not to go there, like you gotta not like you can't take it personally because like it's
No,
gotta
you
work for
can't.
you and it's gotta work for them. And like they
Mm-hmm.
gotta like see themselves there, but also they gotta kind of like sell themselves to you in a way like how they would work for you. And I feel like a lot of people in so many other situations, they're like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. They forget to like
Mm-hmm.
say what they can do for someone else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Completely understand where you're coming from. It is, and that's a good point. It is one of those things where it has to work for where you're going to school, but also has to work for the player as well. And sometimes, fans are, we really want you, really want you, really want you, but sometimes for them, they didn't see themselves fitting into that situation. And you just you got to roll with it. I say in this profession, you hear more no's than you do yes. It's just how it is.
It's got to be like that because you know, fortunately and unfortunately, there's gonna be someone else. Like you're gonna
Mhm.
find the person who was meant to be there at Stanford or at wherever you may find yourself to be at. But what would you say are some of the best things about coaching, and what would you say were some of the worst things about coaching?
I'll say my number one worst thing about coaching is losing. Losing sucks. And there's just something in you when you've been an athlete. There's just something in you. Just hate losing. You just hate it. So I would say that's the worst thing. The best thing about coaching is seeing the light bulb go off. You are pouring into these young women and you want them to get it. You want them to be successful at whatever they want to be. And you help them keep their dreams alive of letting them know, hey, you can achieve this, you can do this, and you can be successful in this area. But I think basketball and being a part of a team helps prepare you for life. And there is nothing I tell all the student athletes I've ever coached, all the young women, I always tell them there's nothing you cannot do. You've pretty much put your body through, you push yourself when you were tired, the mental aspect of it, the physical aspect of it. You're juggling academics and basketball at the same time. You're learning plays while progressing through college. I think it just gives them a sense of strength and confidence in themselves. But to see the light bulb go off of they're getting it basketball wise, and they're happy to graduate and they're happy to go on and just go after whatever they've decided they wanted to go after is probably the best part of coaching. I just finished my 8th year in college coaching, and still from starting at Radford 8 years ago, there's still young women that were on that team that I still talk to this day that still ask me for advice. They're still figuring it out. Won a couple weeks ago texted me, told me that she bought a house, like she bought her first house. I was happy for her. It made me feel old because I'm like, oh, but I was just happy for her. So just to see them achieve those things is the best part, the absolute best part of it.
Yeah, the life part, because you pour into them in like the court part, and you try to pour into them in the life part, but when you actually get to
Mhm.
see that, that's got to be super cool. But
Yes.
you did say something about, how losing, like, how do you deal with that? Like, you went from playing and you could like actually go out there and, take the ball and
Um,
shoot the hoop. You were like, Haley, do it this way. Why are you standing over here? But now you gotta like scream at her from like across the court. Like, how do you not just run out there and do it for them?
you just, my first year was tough because, like you said, you want to like do it for them. But I think you learn very quickly communicating to them in a way to help them be successful, kind of on the go. Like I said, you can't go about it the same way for every player. But how I handle losing is when we do, like, there's just things where you're like, what can we control that we did a terrible job at? And trying to get those things across to them. Okay, we need to do this better. This is where we can improve. Is this them or is this us? Like, these are things that we can go to do better at. So trying to help them see those things. But watching film, watching a lot of film so that they can see, okay, this is where you can improve. This is where you need to get better. That helps them out a lot. But you focus on all the things that we could have done better in order for the outcome to be different. You try not to kind of hit on it too hard consistently over and over and over. But you try to incorporate that into the film that they watch and kind of get some feedback from them. But it still stings.
Oh,
It
oh
still
yeah,
sucks.
oh yeah. You like think about it, and you're like, "Ugh." Like if we just kind of, and you won the natty. Like we can't not talk about that. Like no, half the people probably clicked on this because of that. And how did you, like, I don't want to ask you how did you feel because I know that had to be like, but y'all went through a lot to get there. And what was one thing you kind of like sat back and you were like, oh, okay, like I didn't think I'll think about this after I possibly could have won the national championship, because everyone goes in the season, they say, oh, we're gonna win the national championship, but only one person like actually does it. So
So when I took the job, I talked to Kiana, we talked about her goals. And I said, well, Key, like, what's the goal for this year? Like, she said, win the national championship. And I said, okay. Um, and then I talked to a couple other players who said the same exact thing, some of the upperclassmen. Then we went to our first practice and I was like, okay, like we have a chance because of the pieces that were recruited to come here and how everybody played off of each other, but nobody does the same exact thing, which is a huge gift for a team. But with everything that we went through, the season started, I honestly was like, I don't know if we're going to make it through the season. Um, I had a little bit of hope. I was like, okay. But when they told us that we couldn't practice here, play here in Santa Clara County, I was like, so what's next? And I will say TAR's leadership is what got us through all of that. And then some more. So once we got to the point where we had to leave here, and Tara was like, well, this is what we have to do. Are you all willing to do this? And our team model was all in, and they were all in, and they had each other's back. And they made sure that they were there for each other. They encouraged each other. They corrected each other when they felt like somebody was wrong. And I think it takes a special team to be able to do that. And they picked each other up, because I'll tell you, it was not a smooth ride. It was very bumpy. On top of doing classes on Zoom, which I hadn't heard of Zoom for real like that until all of this.
nobody
No,
did.
it's just, I'm like, okay, they're doing classes on Zoom. We're practicing. We're not at home. We're going from hotel to hotel. And I was happy that we were able to achieve what we achieved at the end of the year, because I was just like, this is night, whatever, and something in a hotel. And we are going into this bubble that the NCAA tournament said that we had to be in. But I was like, well, we've been here before, but we know when it's ending. We know in 21 days it's over. During our season, we didn't know when it was going to be over. It just was kind of like, okay, another week. Okay, another week. And it kind of just kept going. But I literally still every day wake up and I'm like, oh, we won a national championship. Like we won a national championship. And people ask how it feels. I don't know if there's like any words you can explain besides time freezes and you look at the clock and you make sure the time says 0, because how we won both of those games by 1 point was just kind of like, oh, okay. It just kind of was just like your heart stops. But it was for them and that group and how they stuck together. It was huge. It was just huge for them. And I was happy for them to feel like they gave everything they had. They poured it all into each other. They were there for each other. And it's just a team that just backed themselves and they're extremely close. But with the season, I'm like, it ended very well. Now there's of course there's things where you're like the championship game, you're like, I wish we did this better, this better, this better, this better, like took care of the ball. But it's just one of those things where it's you're a part of history and you're like, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah, because like everyone who wins a national championship is a part of history, but y'all are like, so much happened in them 21 days that it was like, okay, we're okay. Can we go home now, please?
It was they knew once we get to the end, they were like, we're going home. Like we get to the end, 21 days, you know that it's over. So it was, and there was a couple mornings I literally woke up and I was like, okay, oh, I'm at home. Like you have to remind yourself you're at home because we'd been to so many just hotels and different places. So it was a good feeling to be home.
Y'all went on a literal like West Coast tour unintentionally. I heard you didn't take any like confetti or anything, but like you had to call like your mom. Like what? I know your mom was flipping out. She was like, "Oh my god!" How did that go? How did that first phone call with your mom go?
My parents were there, so my mom and dad were there. They came. My mom stayed for 21 days. My dad went back and forth a couple times. My first phone call, I'm trying to think, who was my first phone call to? My phone, I had a gazillion text messages and it just kind of was just like, okay, here we go. I didn't take any confetti. I wish somebody would have told me that in the beginning. I think I just kind of was just like, wow. Like for me, it was just like, it's confetti, there's you see the trophy, and it's just kind of like, you're just there. I didn't take my hat off for a while. Several of my friends like text me and called. I can't remember my first call. I'll just say once we were walking to the locker room, I yelled at my parents, I yelled at my mom, waved at her, and then we kind of just then I saw them later. After the game, they kind of did like a family room for the players, and because we weren't allowed to see or hang around our families until like the very end. So that was one thing, but I don't remember my first call. I know I was tired.
You're probably like, oh, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, but I do wish I would have taken some confetti. Next time I'll take some confetti. I remember that. It just never crossed my mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, you gotta have some. But I mean, now we live in a world where like you can take it like a photo with like a notepad. So you know, you got TV shows and recordings and all that stuff. So you're good now. You now as a personal Holly Rowe stan, like I am a self-proclaimed president of the Holly Rowe fan club. Have you have y'all ever had any actions? You're the closest person I've ever felt that could have possibly interacted with Holly Rowe. So I have to ask this question.
She said hi as we were like in passing, like they came to our practice and stuff. And I said hi. She spoke to Tara and Key and Haley, like she spoke to them. What she does for our game, I take my hat off to her. She just does so much for women's basketball. And then she also does a lot for just in general women's sports. She's a supporter of women's sports. So those are the things that she does that I think I'll always pay attention to. But she was down there. She was around it the entire time, and her support and everything of it just kind of was just like one of those things where she's a special person. She's a special person who has conquered and overcame a lot. And just what she does for the game, I think I was in a little awe just being around her as well, because she's sharp and she's on top of her stuff.
Oh yeah. Like the thing that really, really makes my clock tick is when she's like posting all those videos of like these kids and stuff walking by and they're just kind of like, and I'm like, that's flipping Holly Rowe. Like, if y'all don't like bow down and give her a round of applause, what are you doing? Like, it's Holly Rowe, y'all acting so calm, cool, and collected. Like, okay, Michael Jordan walked by, you would not do the same thing. So give Holly her respect, because she's out here putting in the work. Like Holly Rowe, you can find her. I mean, she does gymnastics, softball, basketball. I'm pretty sure if they played a game on the moon, Holly Rowe would have found her way there.
You're right. She does a lot. She does a lot for our game. But next time I see her, I have to talk to her.
Oh yeah. I love. She's my favorite white woman ever. Like top of the list, favorite white woman ever. So every year we do this thing where I say 3 things, and whatever I say that you just give me your first thing comes to your head, or a story if you have one that goes behind it. So first word is basketball.
It's taught me a lot about life. It's taught me how to endure. It's given me confidence, strength. It's just one of those things that I put the work into it when I was younger and I improved. So it's just something I just saw the reward from my hard work. So it's something that will always be a staple in my life, some way, shape, or form. But it teaches you a lot about life.
Oh yeah. Mount Telepasis. I think that's how you say it.
We say Mount Tam. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it. They can say it. People here can say it. I just say Mount Tam because I don't know how to say it all. Hot, sweaty. Walked it with a couple of friends. Hiked it with a couple of friends. Pretty views. It was an experience I'll never forget because I had never really done anything like that.
Oh yeah, that's like prime quarantine. You're just doing random stuff because you were like, I can't sit down anymore. Like I can't do this anymore. You're like, okay, will I possibly might have passed out from a heat stroke on this mountain or this hike? Possibly, but at least it'll be an experience and I can go maybe to the doctor's office. I don't know.
It was an experience.
The last word is your top connect leaders.
I'm excited. I've learned a lot in just 2 short sessions. It is an honor to be selected to be a part of it. It's something new and upcoming, but to have somebody think of you as a future head coach, I think is something that I don't take lightly. But there's a lot of nuggets I've taken from it just this short time. But there's a lot of other people who have high goals and aspirations, just sharing things that they know. And I'm just a sponge looking to take in information.
Great. What we love to see here. Tell everybody where they can find you on all the socials, all the interwebs, so they can see all your Peloton stories every morning. I have no intentions of buying a Peloton or riding a bike because they hurt my butt, but I'm a walker, so I'll get into that way.
My Peloton story is I had it for about a year before the pandemic hit. And for a year, I was like, Brittany, that's the worst purchase. Like, that's terrible. You should have never bought that. Just awful. I beat myself up for about a year for buying it. I'm like, well, what do I do now? Just keep it, use it, blah, blah, blah. People say when you buy home workout equipment, you never use it, blah. After the pandemic hit, and I was like, this is the best purchase ever. Brittany, you are so smart. And I was like, you know what? I just saw this coming before it happened. So I do love my Peloton. I love doing the classes, and there's a lot of things on it. I do hashtag get it in before 8 every morning. I try to get up in the morning and get on there or lift or go for a run or something like that before 8. But you can find me I'm on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's it. I do Facebook, but people say old people do Facebook. And I'm not officially old yet. But my name on there is Britney, Britney A25. And that's just my name on all of those platforms.
Yes, make sure to go check her out. All the links will be in the description. Thank you so much for joining us today, Britney.
Thanks for having me.
Be safe, have fun, and don't be afraid to join the convo.